Okay, we're talking about depression. I had a few more things I wanted to say about depression. Most of you know by now about Robin Williams, and depression and suicide became grist for the CNN and Fox News mill. You're still hearing a lot about Robin Williams and depression and suicide, etc. Yesterday we talked about point number 1 in my antidepressant protocol, and that is understanding the voice. I call it the voice, the talking in our heads, the voice that's not based on what's real. It's just based on opinions and based on past experiences and based on mental ideas. Isolating the voice, not listening to the voice, or at least not paying attention to the voice, that's step number 1 in dealing with any mental health issue, really. Depression, anxiety, addictive behaviors, anger, jealousy, fear, rage, etc. It's all based on this voice in our heads. It's always talking to us. Yesterday I said if you don't know, haven't isolated the voice and you want to look for it, just pick up a magazine or a cereal box and just read it. And you'll notice that as you're reading, there's a voice in your head that's repeating the words. When we read, all we got to do is look, and then the visual image of the word goes to our brain. But there seems to be some voice that intermediates that mediates our reading experience. There's a voice that mediates our experiences in general. And this is what I call the voice, T, capital V. And if you're depressed, find the voice and don't listen to it, or at least don't pay any attention to the voice. Next important idea about depression, and these are non-nutritional ideas. We'll get into some nutritional strategies here in a minute. But the next important idea about depression, something I learned when I was depressed in my mid-20s. I remember lying in bed in the morning thinking about how miserable my life was and whether life was even worth living. I'm sure some of you guys can relate to this. And for some reason, I don't remember why, but I randomly focused, while in the midst of my depression, I randomly focused on how I could be of service to someone. I was thinking about my kid, actually, how I could be of service to her. And I noticed that immediately as I thought of somebody else, my depression disappeared. And then I thought of myself and my crappy life and all the things I hated and the people I despised. And once again, I was immersed in this black cloud of depression. So I placed my attention on helping someone, being of service, and again, the depression was gone. And after a few minutes of this back and forth, what I realized was depression is the price I was paying for being self-centered, for thinking only of myself. Depression is like a penalty for being self-absorbed. And I'm not judging anybody here. I'm just talking about the mechanism. If you're depressed, try this. Start off by feeling your depression. Always want to feel your feelings. You don't want to resist your feelings. Much of the problems that we associated with feelings are really the resistance of feelings. So focus on feeling your feelings and focus on someone you can help, someone who needs you. Focus or place your attention on how you can up someone's game, how you can add value to somebody's life, how you can improve their lives, how you can bring something to the table for someone or something. And I guarantee you, as you're thinking of and placing attention on being of service, there's going to be no room left to be self-absorbed. And without being self-absorbed, you can't be depressed. No judgment here. It's just about the mechanism. Depression is a surface phenomena. It's a sensation or feeling that's only on the surface of our deep ocean of emotions. Dive deeply into depression, and underneath the surface, you're going to find that underneath your depression, you're really angry. Depression is anger turned inwards. It's a type of anger that's acceptable. It's not always acceptable to be angry, but it is acceptable to be angry at ourselves. It's acceptable to turn that anger inwards, and sometimes when that anger gets turned inwards, it shows up as depression. If you go deep enough under your depression, you're going to find that you're pissed off at your situation or something that's going on in your life, and we're just too good. We're too good to experience anger. We're good guys and good girls, so we don't experience anger. Or we're too tired of being angry. We're just sick of being angry, and the next step is to be bummed. And underneath anger, you'll always find fear. Fear that something is going to happen not in the way that you want it to happen. The problem with most strategies that address depression is they don't address the fundamental components, the building blocks, the underneath the surface phenomena of anger and then of fear. To effectively deal with a depressed state, we got to find, first of all, what we're angry about, and then we got to find our fear. We got to find out what it is we're truly afraid of. It may be death. It may be the death of a loved one. It may be pain, it may be jealousy, it may be shame, rejection, failure, but underneath the depressed state, there's always, always, always something we are afraid of. Depression is on the surface. Underneath it is going to be fear. Look for it and then feel it. If it's fear of failure, which is very common, really feel the failure. Feel like the worst failure that ever lived. And what you'll find after the initial shock of feeling the failure, of feeling how terrible it is to fail, feeling our angst, we'll notice that it starts to dissipate. If we feel through our feelings, feel through our angst, it will start to dissipate. And then if we feel through it long enough, it will completely go away. Now, it may come back, it may return, but if you just sit with the feeling over time, it will weaken and it will dissipate, and you could do this with any fear once you've identified it. Feel it fully, and it goes away. Feel it fully long enough, it goes away forever. And then what you'll notice is it's not the fear that's underneath the depression that's really the problem, but it's the resistance to the fear. It's resistance to feeling the fear. And once we've overcome the resistance, which takes a lot of energy, by the way, even if we don't feel like it, resisting and pushing away our feelings costs us a lot of energy that should be spent on helping our bodies process foods, for example, help our bodies fighting bacteria and germs, help our bodies heal. The resistance to feeling our feelings is behind much of the degenerative and aging process. Even though we always talk about nutrition and protein and amino acids and B vitamins, etc., which are very important, underneath the depressive state is some kind of pushing away, some kind of resistance, which really impacts our ability to grow and to thrive and to be fully functioning human beings. And by the way, fear is always about something that might happen. It's always about the future, because the future only exists in the imagination. Fear is always imaginary anyway. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back with more good health information right after this. 855-660-4261 is our number. Got some lines open for you. We're coming back after this. Don't go away. Got a couple lines open for you today at 855-660-4261. We'll get your calls in a minute. I'm really interested, especially interested in hearing from you guys if you're depressed or if you've conquered depression on your own. Especially if you've conquered depression on your own. I'd like to hear how you did it, and you can share with our listeners how you did it. Or if you're depressed and you want some help with that, we can help you too. I'm going to get into some nutritional strategies here in a moment. Tomorrow we'll continue talking. Even if I don't finish up today, we'll just conclude our topic today, because I didn't mean to digress for 2 straight days, but it's just such an important subject. We'll continue talking about wound healing and connective tissue and scleroderma tomorrow, and we'll talk about a hormone that comes from the amino acid arginine that's got some really, really interesting roles to play when it comes to overall health, when it comes to anti-aging, when it comes to sexual performance, circulatory health, blood pressure health. It's a hormone that was only recently discovered. It's derived from arginine, and we will talk about that tomorrow. Okay, so before we went to break, we were talking about how it's very important to feel deeply into depression. If you go deep enough, you're going to find anger. If you go deep enough into your anger, you're going to find fear, and specifically not just fear, but resistance to fear. Fear is always about something in the future. It's about always something that might happen, and because the future isn't here, it's imaginary. Fear is always based on imagination. That means depression itself is always based on imagination. How important is that? It's our imagination running amok. Depression is about the future, it's about fear, and fear is about the future, and the future is about imagination, along with the voice explaining to us or telling us about the future. The bottom line is fear is not real, because the future is not real. That's what's meant by the acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Some of you may have heard that. False evidence appearing real implies that fear is based on an imaginary might, an imaginary what if, an imaginary something that perhaps might happen. The problem is most of us just assume our depression is real and assume that our depression is based on reality because we don't dig deep enough. We don't dig deeply enough into our feelings. We're not self-aware enough about our feelings. We stay superficial, and thus we stay miserable. So next time you're depressed, or sad even, dive into it. First, feel the resistance to diving into it. You'll notice that you don't want to dive into it. But just dive into it anyway. Muscle through it. And you're going to find the anger underneath the depression. Stay with it. Stay with the anger and really feel it. Really be pissed off about your situation, your job, your boss, your husband, your wife, the New World Order, the IRS, God even. And then go deeper past your anger and then find the fear. Feel the anger, find the fear, find what it is that you're ultimately afraid of that's making you angry and then making you depressed. And once you find out what it is that you're afraid of, feel it, really feel it. Go past the bodily sensation of terror, the hurricane of angst, and what you'll find is a calm eye of the storm where everything is as it should be. Once you dive into this hurricane, you will find the eye of the hurricane, and that's where everything's perfect and right and calm and silent. But you gotta dive into it in order to find it. So from a non-nutritional standpoint, to eliminate depression, find the voice, the vocalization, allow it to be there. It's built in, it's hardware. Don't pay attention to it, don't listen to it, don't identify with it, but just be with it. Be the silent listener who's just aware of the voice but not its slave. Secondly, place attention on being of service, helping someone, making your child or your spouse or your stranger or neighbor or significant other or your parent or somebody's life better, being giving and charitable to someone less fortunate. Just think about it. Placing and focusing attention on someone else and allowing the divine force to work its will through us and as us. And then finally, find the anger and then the fear that underlies all depression. If you can't find it, look harder. It's always going to be there. Once you find it, feel it. Be pissed off, be angry, be scared if you are, be terrified. Feel it deeply until you notice that it's dissipating. If it returns, do it again, and eventually you'll notice that the feeling of fear is gradually, little by little, getting weaker until it's completely gone, and then you're going to be free of fear, and ultimately you'll be free of anger, and then ultimately you'll be free of depression, none of which can exist without the fear at the bottom to fuel it. And those are the mental and spiritual even strategies, and they're very effective. They're very, very effective, but there's also a lot we can do physically to alleviate depression, and there are nutritional deficiencies that are oftentimes behind depression. First thing that comes to mind that I think of when it comes to, from a physical perspective, when it comes to depression is drugs, medication. Prescription drugs are suppressants. They're anti. That's why you have antihypertensives, anticoagulants, antibiotics, anti-inflammatories. Drugs shut things down. Depression is a type of shutdown. Depression is the manifestation of a slowing up, of a sluggishness. It's a low energy state. And drugs lower energy. Drugs lower energy. Even if you speed or amphetamines, which temporarily will raise energy, ultimately will lower energy. But most drugs work by suppressing. They work by lowering energy. That's why in the package insert that describes the toxic effects of prescription drugs, you're going to find depression as a potential side effect of almost every single drug you take. Now, Robin Williams just had open heart surgery. And I'm not sure if Robin Williams was hip to nutritional supplementation, but even if he was, doctors tell patients to stop supplementing pre-surgery. How intelligent is that? That's when you want to be making sure you're taking supplements, but doctors will tell their patients not to supplement for 2 or 3 weeks before surgery. Aside from the absolute idiotic, crazy nature of this idea, aside from that, Robin Williams or anybody else who's having surgery is almost guaranteed to be malnourished and nutritionally deficient at a time when they most need it, when they most need nutrition. And then Robin Williams was also a vegetarian, so he was probably B12 deficient, he was probably vitamin A deficient, he was probably protein deficient too. And all of this can have negative mental impacts and emotional impacts. And on top of all of that, you can rest assured, after Robin Williams had his heart surgery, he's probably on Coumadin or warfarin or some other blood-thinning drug, Eliquis or Plavix or Pradaxa. A standard treatment post-surgery. Clotting is a sign that the body's in a survival mode. It always occurs after surgery, which represent a major survival threat to the body, maybe not to doctors, but to the body. The way doctors get around this clotting, which is obviously a problem, it can cause embolisms and be life-threatening. The way doctors get around clotting is by poisoning the clotting system. Now, again, leaving aside the craziness of poisoning the blood clotting system, especially under conditions of nutritional deficiency, one of the most important effects of these kinds of drugs is they affect thinking, they affect mood, and depression is one of the more common side effects of these kinds of medications. Doctors will say, oh, after heart surgery, it's very common to be depressed. Well, yeah, because you're drugged, you're on medication, among other reasons, especially blood clotting medication. And then Robin Williams is probably on a statin drug too, and statin drugs suppress cholesterol, and lowering cholesterol is a great way, artificially lowering cholesterol is a great way to induce depression too. All right, hang tight. We'll finish up when we come back from our break and take your phone calls as well. 855-660-4261 is our number. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. All right, we're back on The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Our number 855-660-4261. Got a ton more to say about depression, but I think I'm just going to wind things down here. I wanted to talk about salts. A couple days ago, last week actually, the New England Journal of Medicine had an editorial about how we need to rethink our intake, the idea that we have to go on low salt diets and we got to avoid salt. The common understanding that you hear from doctors and other biochemistry amateurs. Unfortunately, doctors tend to be biochemistry amateurs. Even nutritionists, sometimes dietitians, don't really understand biochemistry. The common misunderstanding, I should say, not understanding, but misunderstanding of salt is that it's sodium chloride or table salt. And when doctors tell you not to use salt, they're really telling you not to use table salt. That's what they really mean. But the actual definition of salt is much more complex than just table salt. The salt is a chemical compound that's made up of two electrically charged pieces. They're called ions. A positively charged piece and a negatively charged piece, and that creates a circuit. A negative charged piece of electricity and a positive charged piece of electricity, negative ion and a positive ion. When you stick them together, you get this electrical circuit, and that makes salt super duper electrical, and they're very, very important for this reason. They're electrical. That means the electrical systems in the body, remember the body is largely electrical, especially the heart and the brain and the circulatory system in general. These systems depend on electricity, and they depend on electricity that comes from salts. I said salts, not salt. Salts, as in plural, because there's different kinds of salt. Potassium chloride is a salt. Magnesium chloride is a salt. Potassium sulfate is a salt. Zinc chloride is a salt. You got salts in your bile salts. There's many, many, many salts. And they're all electrical, and they're all important. In fact, the most common feature of salts is their electrical nature. And this is what makes them so important. We're electrical beings. We need the electricity that's carried via salt. Potassium and sodium and chloride are especially important for biological electricity. So Robin Williams for sure was on a low salt diet. If you're depressed, very likely you're on a low salt diet or not getting enough salt. By the way, it's almost impossible to stop eating salt because salt is regulated, or salt intake is regulated by the brain. Try to go on a low salt diet. Try not to eat table salt for a day. No sodium chloride for a day. And then put some potato chips in front of you, or corn chips, or any other salty foods, and see what happens. Food processors know this good and well. That's why you can't eat just one potato chip. The problem with salt or table salt, sodium chloride, and salts in general, is they absorb water, and this will raise blood pressure. And this is why heart doctors, and doctors in general, will tell you to go on a low salt diet, because table salt, sodium chloride, absorbs water, raises blood volume, makes the heart work harder, and can create problems with high blood pressure. But you don't have to go on a low salt diet if you're taking in too much salt. Just pay attention to how much salt you're getting, and instead of sodium chloride, use potassium chloride. That way you don't get too much sodium, you get your potassium. Or use calcium salts, or use Celtic sea salt, which I talk about all the time. That way you won't have to worry about getting too much sodium or getting out of balance sodium, and you'll still get all your good salts. New England Journal of Medicine, by the way, which is no friend of alternative medicine, published an editorial last week that said that doctors should rethink this belief that somehow salt is bad and that it should be restricted, especially for patients with heart disease. This is something Dr. Wallach and I have been saying for many, many years. So if you're feeling like low energy, if you're feeling depressed, if you've got adrenal health issues, the adrenal glands regulate salt, drink salt, except drink Celtic sea salt water. And of course, make sure you're getting your minerals from the Ultimate Classic or the Tangy Tangerine. That's another great way to beat salt cravings. Make sure you're getting enough minerals. There's all kinds of mental health nutrients. The B complex is super important for mental health issues, for depression. Vitamin B1, vitamin B3, vitamin B12, all the B vitamins really. Magnesium is very important as an antidepressant. Essential fatty acids, especially omega-3s, can have antidepressant properties. Zinc has antidepressant properties. SAM-E, maybe one of the most important antidepressant supplements you could take. Keeping your blood sugar stable is important. Hypoxia or low blood oxygen can induce depression, so make sure you're practicing your deep breathing techniques. There's tons of ways that you can alleviate depression without drugs, without doctors, and we could spend many hours on this subject, but suffice it to say, in the interest of winding down this very interesting and important subject, if you're depressed or if you know somebody who's depressed, there are lots and lots and lots of things you can do, none of which involve drugs, none of which involve doctors, none of which involve the pharmacomedical model, which can't help you in any way. In fact, at the end of the day, as with all chronic and degenerative diseases, the pharmacomedical model is useless, it's helpless, and it's impotent. And that's all I want to say about depression. Tomorrow we'll continue talking about healing, wound healing. We'll talk about connective tissue, and then we'll talk about this very interesting hormone that's related to arginine and has a major effect on anti-aging, on connective tissue, on keeping wrinkles at bay, protecting against photo damage, on the circulatory system. It's a natural antihypertensive. Many drugs work by affecting this hormone. Many heart drugs work by affecting this hormone. It also is involved in male sexual performance, and it has antidepressant benefits too. And we'll talk about that tomorrow on The Bright Side. Time to hit our phones. If you're depressed, I'd love to hear from you, or if you know somebody who's depressed, or if you have conquered depression, I'd love to hear how you did it, and so would our listeners. 855-660-4261 is our number on The Bright Side. Let's go to Florida and welcome Bobby to The Bright Side. What's up, Bobby? How you doing?
Fine. How are you today?
Good morning. What's going on?
Just wanted to ask you, I can't seem to get any answers anywhere. I had AFib, CHF, and cardiomyopathy, and was told I had to take their big gun. I didn't have a choice, which was amiodarone.
That's a big gun, all right.
Yeah. And so I have ended up with, and I kept telling them all along about, the complaints that were related to that, which they totally ignored. And I have ended up with interstitial lung disease, which is, the iodine toxicity of the lungs. And the problem is...
You had fluid buildup in your lungs?
Yes, evidently.
Well, here's the deal, ma'am, Bobby. Amiodarone, you're right, it is a big gun. Cortisone is the brand name. If you're on Cortisone, there's a couple other ones.
Right.
It slows the heart down. You had a heart arrhythmia, and this crazy idea that doctors have that the way you handle arrhythmias of the heart is you shut it down. In fact, sometimes doctors will actually cauterize, electrically burn the heart in a process called cardiac ablation. So you're lucky that didn't happen. You still got your heart. But
I did cardioversion.
You did what?
It didn't work.
Okay.
I did cardioversion, but it didn't work.
Well, here's the issue, ma'am. Okay, the heart's an electrical system, and basically, when you have an arrhythmia, you have a short circuit in the heart. By the way, that's what Robin Williams had an arrhythmia also, and I don't know if they cauterized his heart or what they did to take care of it, but it's the same idea. The heart cells short circuit. The electrical energy short circuits. You ever see a short circuit? Do you know what a short circuit is? The electricity is supposed to run in a certain pattern. It's supposed to run in a circuit. It jumps. Mm-hmm. And when this happens in the heart, the rhythm gets thrown off. So you want to consider heart arrhythmias as an electrical problem. It could be due to a lot of things. Inflammation can be involved, blood sugar and insulin can be involved, and nutritional deficiencies can be involved. Now, I guarantee you, ma'am, Bobby, I'm not a psychic. I say this all the time. The body breaks down generically, so I can tell you this because you got a human body like I got a human body, and even though you live in Florida and you're a lady and I live in Colorado and I'm a guy, we pretty much have this, in a lot of ways, we got the same basic functioning in our bodies. Okay? You must have had something else going on for a long time. Probably digestive problem, probably a blood sugar problem. Now think about it. We're going to take a break. Think about it. We'll come back and we'll finish up when we come back. Okay? But I want you to think about that because that needs to be addressed if we're going to deal with the arrhythmias and really deal with the arrhythmias, not just superficially. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You are listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. 855-660-4261 is our number. We'll be back after this. All right, we are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Bobby in Florida, who was on amiodarone, got some lung disease. By the way, lung disease is one of the more common side effects of amiodarone, as I'm sure you know, Bobby.
Yes.
So what's been going on long-term, ma'am? Something must have been happening.
Well, long-term, the only thing I can think of would be like major stress.
Well, yeah, that's a big problem. But that's not the only thing, man.
All right, I live near a high-power transmission line.
That's not helping you. That's not going to help you either, of course. But you can't go out there and take down the high-power transmission lines. So you got to work where you can.
Blood sugar, I don't know. I've never been told that. And
well, you have. I'm telling you that because you can't have a heart problem without a blood sugar problem. Now,
I expected that, but they've never, said that. So
don't worry about it. You got to treat yourself. Don't worry what they tell you. I don't want to say you can't have a heart problem without a blood sugar problem, but typically that's behind it. And behind that is, if you've listened to this program, behind that is digestive issues. Now, basing the way you sound just from your voice, I'm guessing you're in your 40s or 50s, correct?
Try double that.
Are you serious? You're 100?
Yeah, I'm in the 70s.
Okay, you're in your 70s. Okay, well then, guaranteed you have some blood sugar problems and some digestive problems. So here's what we want you to do. Okay, first and foremost, get yourself on the Mighty 90 right away. The amiodarone is going to deplete your body of very important heart nutrients, especially the B vitamins and vitamin C. So you need the Mighty 90 nutrients. Start sipping on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. I would do it right away. Not only is it going to help. You have?
I have taken it before. The only thing is, does it have enough nutrients in it?
No, the BTT is just to top off your tank, but your tank needs topping off. You need something. All right? If you're not supplementing, aside from the fact that if you're
I am, but, it's not a major like D-ribose and all the,
No, that's not a supplement, D-ribose. That doesn't count. All right? That's more like a food. I'm talking the Mighty 90 Essential Nutrients. Sounds like you read Stephen Sinatra's book. Did you read Stephen Sinatra's?
Yeah, and Dr. Sherry Rogers.
Okay, both of those guys, Sherry Rogers, and they're both great. B vitamins, probably the single most important nutrients you could do, and you should do them right away, are the B complex, and you should be sipping on it all day long, and that's what the Beyond Tangy Tangerine will get you. Of course, the Healthy Start Pack will include the omega fats and magnesium, and both of those are very important for the heart as well. And then I would be taking a little bit extra vitamin C too, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Please, 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 please keep your sugar low. Keep your blood sugar low. Very important. That means staying away from any foods that get processed real quickly, that get turned into sugar real quickly, breads, pastas, potatoes, processed foods in general. And then you also want to be using the sweeties after all of your meals. Practice deep breathing techniques. It's one of the single most important, maybe the single most important anti-arrhythmic strategy that you could use. Hypoxia, low blood oxygen, will kick off heart arrhythmias faster than almost anything. And that's where stress comes in. So slow, deep breathing. Practice it at least 1 or 2 minutes a day. Sit on the couch. Get yourself if you have a smartphone, get yourself an app called My Calm Beat or biobreathing. Please do not underestimate the importance of deep breathing for arrhythmias. Slow, deep breathing. Slow is the operative word. Okay, now I got to move on here, but that's tons of great ideas there for you. If you have any underlying digestive issues, and I can't imagine that you don't, those need to be corrected as well. The Biolumin Nightly Essence will help you. The Z Radical from Longevity has got some nice blood thinning effects that might help you as well, and also help coat your digestive system. If you want more information, call back because I got to get some more calls. But that's a ton of stuff for you.
One quick question: is there any way to detox this from your tissue? Because that's the main
charcoal.
problem.
Get yourself on activated charcoal and start doing it on a daily basis. Clay too. That'll work also. Both clay. Clay will give you minerals. The charcoal, and make sure you don't take the charcoal or the clay with your nutrients, because they'll keep you from absorbing your nutrients too. So much more. That's not anywhere near comprehensive, Bobby, but that gives you an idea of all the tools you have in your tool belt and your formulary, things that you can use that have nothing to do with drugs or doctors that you can do by yourself. And there's lots more. So I got to move on, but that'll get you started. Okay, Bobby? Thanks so much for your call. God bless. Okay, let's see. Dennis in Florida, what's going on? Welcome to the bright side.
Hi, Ben. I'd like to thank you for your saintly work. You've really been an inspiration in a supplement and nutrition for me. I'm doing great.
I appreciate
that. You're quite welcome. My sister's having issues with, she's had high blood pressure for quite a while. Okay. She's not overweight, mid-40s. And now she's having issues with migraines, migraines. When she bends over, she's had it for like 2 months now.
Are you sure they're migraines or just headaches? Because migraines are specific.
Maybe.
Okay.
You're right. Maybe it's just extreme headache. Yeah.
Okay. Hypertension, high blood pressure is a manifestation. Well, it's a lot of things, but generally it's a sign that the body's under duress. This is really the core of all disease states. All chronic pathology, chronic degeneration is a body that's under duress. Now, the major cause of duress is going to be low blood oxygen, hypoxia, and that's real easy to treat. Just sit there and breathe. You know, I know it sounds silly, but we don't breathe. We breathe shallowly, especially when we're under stress. and that can cause the blood vessels to try to compensate by closing down in certain places, so you get more blood flowing to other areas, more important areas. Simply by deep breathing, you can open up the blood vessels and reduce blood pressure. And you can try this yourself. If you want to observe how powerful this is, take your blood pressure, get a blood pressure cuff, and take your blood pressure, and then get a baseline reading, and then do 2 or 3 minutes of deep breathing, and then do another blood pressure reading, and almost always you'll find that your blood pressure drops significantly. It's simple as that. And you can do this on a regular basis, or you can just do it once or twice just to see how effective it is. But I recommend you do it at least once or twice a day. That's number one. I always like non-toxic, easy-to-use strategies that don't involve cost or doctors or pharmacists or insurance companies, and deep breathing is the best. Secondly,
you're
meditating.
It's great.
It's great, isn't it? It's unbelievable.
Yep.
It's not, you don't have to be a Buddhist, and you don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to be a monk. It's just for your health. Sitting still and focusing on a body function lowers the speed of your brain, lowers your brain waves from the beta state, the fast-moving beta brainwave state, which is associated with stress and depression and freakouts, and it lowers it to the alpha brainwave state and the theta brainwave state, which are slower brainwave states that are associated with peace and love and joy and relaxation. And we grow and we thrive and we recover in peace and joy and relaxation. So meditating is great. Deep breathing is great too. Then there's the staying away from foods that put a stress on the body. Any kind of foods that cause digestive distress are ultimately going to cause general stress on the body. So if she's got food allergies, food intolerances, any foods that are associated with constipation or diarrhea or loose stools or any of the digestive symptoms we talk about, those need to be eliminated. And then patching up the digestive system using the Biolumin Nightly Essence, using probiotics, using bone soup, using the B complex, using essential fatty acids, using zinc. These are all wonderful. Glutamine powder. These are all great strategies for the digestive system. And then, of course, fermented foods. Migraines. It doesn't sound like she has a migraine, though. It sounds like she has some kind of nutritional deficiency that's putting a stress on the adrenal glands. We talked earlier about salt. The adrenal glands regulate salt. Under salt deficiency, you will go. It'll be much harder for the adrenals to do their work. So she's got to focus perhaps on using Celtic sea salt and making sure that she's getting her minerals. The hormone estrogen can be involved with headaches, also with hypertension, with high blood pressure. So balancing out estrogen with progesterone cream that has a nice relaxing effect. Or if you don't want to go get progesterone cream, which is hard to find sometimes, use pregnenolone. Pregnenolone, very relaxing for the body, 100 milligrams of pregnenolone a day. Magnesium is tremendously effective as a relaxation mineral, also as an antihypertensive. She'll get that in the OsteoFX. Get her on the Healthy Start Pack just to be sure she's meeting all of her Mighty 90 nutrient requirements. And then make sure she's sipping on her Beyond Tangy Tangerine. If you want to throw a couple other things in there, 50 milligrams a day of zinc picolinate can help, 100 milligrams a day of oil-soluble coenzyme Q10, and coenzyme Q10's cousin, which is vitamin E. And I would be using the tocotrienol form of vitamin E, maybe 400 international units. Again, Dennis, that's not comprehensive by any means. There's tons more. But that ought to get you started. And thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. I want to get to another call, okay? Is that all right, Dennis?
You, Ben.
Thank you.
That's
God bless.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, cut you off there. I apologize, Dennis. All right, Stan in Florida. Got about a minute, bro. What's going on?
Yeah, hey, Ben, I just want to get your take on Himalayan salt and iodine or lack thereof, and I'll take the answer off the air.
Yeah, iodine's only found in the ocean, so I don't know if you're going to get a high amount of iodine in the Himalayan salt. I think that's what you're referring to, but I do love pink salt. When you're doing salt, we got a bad connection there. I'm going to let you go, Stan. I don't know what that noise is. I love the gourmet salts. I was doing some research for my skincare company. We were doing a salt scrub, and I was doing some research on salts, and I was blown away by all the different types of salts that are out there. There's literally hundreds of gourmet salts. A real nice salt is Celtic sea salt. I talk about that all the time. There's another salt called Redmond salt that actually comes from a mine here in Wyoming, here in this part of the country in Wyoming. That's another good salt. But iodine is only found in ocean salts. Typically, it's an ocean mineral. It's not a terrestrial mineral. So I don't know if you're going to get enough iodine in Himalayan salt. Use the nascent iodine if you want to make sure that you're getting enough iodine. And, of course, make sure you're on the Mighty 90 essential nutrients. You'll get all your minerals all your salt minerals in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, as well as the Ultimate Classic and the other products formulated by Dr. Wallach that you can find on my website, brightsideben.com. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening, friends. I will be on the Dead Doctors Don't Lie program today, guest hosting for Dr. Wallach, and we'll continue talking a little bit about depression as well on the program. And then tomorrow we'll continue talking about connective tissue and wound healing. Thanks for listening, folks. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have yourselves a wonderful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.